Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And this is one of my favorite watches of all time. We needed a 1916 branded video of the Arnold Son CTB, originally launched as part of the Instrument collection. When that's how Arnold Son structured its collection series. This was part of the Instrument model line back in 2014, when it became the first ever chronograph to feature a combination of a running chronograph seconds hand and a deadbeat constant seconds hand. So a lot of people are looking at this thinking, what am I even seeing? And that's exactly what you're witnessing. 180 degrees opposed. One is a chronograph seconds hand, one is the running seconds hand. So if I stop the chronograph, you could see why this is called the CTB, chronograph true beat. Let's start that back up again. In stainless steel, this watch is 44 millimeters in diameter. It measures 15 millimeters thick, and it's actually quite kind to a small wrist, being just 48.7 lug-to-lug with a nice broad 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. But the shape of the lugs really matters. You can see this cup-like form to the lugs. It sits gently and kindly on a smaller wrist. The strap is very stiff because it's high-grade alligator and it's brand new. But as this breaks in and softens up, you're going to find this watch will probably sit just fine on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. It certainly looks just fine on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. No, it's not the thinnest, but it will slide underneath the jacket cuff. And in steel, it's a fairly sporty timepiece, though it's not an aquatic one. Again, lovely look, comfortable fit, not super thick. And we'll take one look down the barrel here, and then we'll take a look over the top. Remember, I'm pulling that strap tight because it's not broken in. The strap, to be fair, it gives you the goods. High-grade, large rectangular, symmetrical scale alligator leather, always fairly expensive, a tough cut of the animal and an expensive one. Initially, it softens up with time, and because of the quality, it lasts. You can see we have a folded edge, a monotone stitch. This is all matte finished black on the bottom, calfskin, no crimping, no gouging, brand new Arnold Son factory strap. The watch is simple in its equipment. It features a pin buckle with polish and satin and the Arnold Son logo. I do like this one detail, though. See how the pin is actually faceted down its center? Nicely done. You can see the lugs, which are welded on, meaning this gets a very sharp artisanal break between lug and case. So that weld line is created when the lug is welded to the case and then hand filed to create a super sharp break. And no doubt someday 3D printers, CNC machines, or stamping devices will be able to duplicate this. But right now, if you want this effect, lug welding, an old school handcrafted technique, that's still the way to do it. You can see there's a little bit of a step to the bowl-shaped case. Then we've got this bezel, which is shallow and conical, abutting what would be described today in the current parlance as a glass box crystal. It's got sufficient loft and camber that it has a box-like profile. The dial features several different types of finishing, and that's part of the appeal. And you can see those three different finishes. We've got a satin graining, where it's a very coarse texture, and then you can see we have metallic brushing. And then we have a sort of opaline or a very light frosted silver white. The hands are blued, as you could see. And we've got a 60-minute register for the chronograph, which I always thought should be standard on chronos. I don't know why we have a 30-minute chronograph register on most chronographs when an hour is composed of 60 minutes. So this is the way it's going to work out. I think even without an hour register, I'd rather have seconds and 60 minutes than 30 minutes, 12 hours, and 60 seconds. Now, there is a hacking function, so if you pull the crown out, even if both mechanisms are active, it will stop. So you can set this to a reference time. You also have the ability to set that time up at 12 o'clock. And you can see stylized Roman numerals, including a watchmaker's 4. John Arnold and his sons were consequential watchmakers, but to be perfectly honest, what we're dealing with here is a product of La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland in the modern era, and Arnold & Son, along with Tompion and Graham, emerged from a company called the British Masters in the 1990s, Swiss-made watches that were named after famous British watchmakers. So in time, La Joux-Perret, which was originally Jacquet, purchased the Arnold & Son name, and thus Arnold & Son became the brand name of watch built by manufacturer La Joux-Perret, which is mostly a contractor to provide movements and assembly and engineering services to other brands. La Joux-Perret started as Jacquet, which was a specialist in building modified Valjoux calibers during the 90s, and there was a little bit of a scandal with Jacquet. You can go see my feature on that from 2021 on the Studios channel, but Jacquet was looking to shed the baggage of the name Jacquet, and so it renamed itself La Joux-Perret. La Joux-Perret gradually moved away from building purely Valjoux-derived movements to building original calibers, but this movement, the 7103, harks back to its origins as a Valjoux specialist. Now, there are a lot of changes here. High horology finish, column wheel adaptation. You could see that the execution of the bevels, solarization, nickel anthracite coatings, engine turning, black polished screws, this is all autologerie. But the basic architecture is that of the 7750. So you can see here we have a winding system that has ceramic bearings for higher efficiency. All of this winding a 45 to 50 hour power reserve, depending on whether the chronograph is running or not. We've got a 4 Hz beat rate, 31 pivot joules. There's your hacking seconds. 5 position adjustment, which is the high horology and chronometer standard. It's what you expect on a truly fine watch. The column wheel feel is light and crisp, but well-defined, sharp, and indelible. It's one of the best tactile feelings you will get operating a chrono. You can even see they went all the way, doing things like double finishing the chronograph start-stop lever and then the spring that sits on top of it. See how they satinated that while polishing the underlying lever? The spring's on top, the lever's on the bottom. Look at that differential finish. Look how they polished the pins that help to locate the spring on the lever. The attention to detail is just superb. The radial Côte de Soleil or sunburst waves looks absolutely fantastic. And you can see that the bevels are an absolute mile wide. This is the good stuff right here. Now, it's 30 meters water resistant, so you don't necessarily want to take it swimming, but this is a very sporty take on the CTB with a steel case, a gray dial, and it is a chronograph of the highest order. It is a lot of fun to play with this watch. Ask your friend which hand is the chronograph seconds hand. They're probably not going to know, but they're going to fall in love with the watch. I know I certainly have. This is one of the best values in independent watchmaking, and La Joux-Perret, which is the power behind Arnold Son, in turn, is owned by Citizen Watch of Japan, which is the power behind La Joux-Perret. So even though Arnold Son only makes 700 to 1,000 watches a year, you get that indie watch cool factor with gigantic watch group money behind it to ensure parts and service forever. So if you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.